Staff member Davis, can you hear us?
I can.
All right, sorry for the delay, everyone. I will turn it back to President Doyle.
This is Board President Doyle. Apologize for the delays in resuming our session after lunch. We have been trying to assure that we're able to cover everything in a timely and efficient manner. We had finished the session before lunch talking about package C10, which is the protocol compendium, and the addition of the new protocols that actually would become effective in February, following the transfer from OHA to Oregon Board of Pharmacy. And with respect to that, there have been a couple of protocols that were recently updated by the PFAC committee just a couple of days ago, and we needed to bring that to the attention of the board members and to the public to ensure that we've encapsulated everything. So I'm asking Staff Member Davis to provide us a little bit more background regarding the changes with revised RSV and COVID protocols.
Sure. You'll hear me. Okay, so yes. On Tuesday afternoon, October 10th, the PFAC held a special meeting to discuss CDC's ACIP recommendations for COVID-19 and RSV vaccines. They had made there was an updated EUA for COVID-19 Novavax vaccine and an updated ACIP recommendation for RSV vaccines that were both made after the committee had met during their regularly scheduled meeting on September 15th. So they had a special meeting and they reviewed updated protocols for COVID-19 that now includes the Novavax 2023-2024 formulation. And they also updated the RSV vaccine protocol to now include pregnant women 32 to 36 weeks gestation for the Brevzio product only. So the board has been provided with those updated protocols. And when you're voting to send the rules to rulemaking, you are voting to send the updated versions of those two protocols, which are different than what was in the public packet. The updated protocols will obviously be in the rulemaking notice packet and provided to the public that way. Back to you, President Doyle.
Staff Member Davis, one moment, please. And with regard to just one more. With regard to package C11, we do not have a motion with that required by the board today. Staff Member Davis, could you please orient us to that piece of information, which will, I believe, be coming to us in December?
Yes, so Staff Member Davis, I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the presentation. We included mailing C11 just so the board could see both pieces, that we would like to move the protocols through Division 20 under the current rules so we give the public opportunity to comment. When we eventually move the protocols and update the rule in Division 115, we will not be able to put it out for public comment because we will have to file a temporary rule. So we're just showing the board what that will look like. There's 3 protocols that have some minor modifications just because they refer to language in Division 19 that would now be in Division 115. So those were provided to the board as well. But you'll see them again at December board meeting. We can discuss then or possibly even February, because if it's a temporary rule, there's nothing that we have to file or do. We just need to discuss it and motion at that time to file the temporary rule that would be effective. And this is just to prevent, if the board, we're going to send the protocols through Division 20 if the board does that today. And then if they were to choose to adopt them in December, then what this temporary rule would do would just be to ensure that the protocols don't disappear on March 1st when Division 20 is repealed. So it's just to ensure continuity. I think that maybe says what I needed to say. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Board Member Doyle, I'll pause in case there are any questions. Seeing no hands go up, thank you for the clarification. We are now ready to move on to package C13. Staff for Melvin, is that correct?
Staff Member Davis, are you ready for C13?
I am.
Okay. Could you also explain to the public why this mailing is not on our website? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so yesterday the board discussed mailing B4, which were some rules that were sent through the rulemaking hearing in September. One of the rules was the counseling rule, and we had some discussion yesterday, and the board provided staff with direction that requires us to refile the rule for new public comment. There were enough substantive changes. And so we took what the board had discussed yesterday. We met after the board meeting and have drafted a couple of modifications to the rule that we want the board to consider if we captured what you were telling us yesterday appropriately. And then we would send this back through November rulemaking hearing. Do you have it pulled up? So you do not. Yeah, people in the public, this is not in the packet. This was made overnight. I'm not going to go through any of that. If you want to scroll down to the rule.
Moment, please.
Oh.
Staff, Board Member Bipperman.
Board Member Bipperman, so we didn't have a chance to look at this?
Board Member, these are changes on counseling that we had discussed yesterday. It's delivered in a new package, but it is content that we've already reviewed this meeting, but we just don't have the official dealing yet at this point, but we'll be reviewing it on the screen, and it's necessary because of time deadlines, et cetera, to be managing it this way.
Oh, we're doing this. I want to make sure I get this right now. We're doing this because it's going to go to rulemaking, not because we're going to finish it today, right? Yes. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had a chance to look at it. I don't like that idea, but okay.
And just for this is Joanna Secretary, just so it's clear, this was entirely based on feedback the board gave yesterday. Yes.
Yeah. Rather than make the changes in real time, we met after hours and then are presenting this to you so that we've had some time to think through it. I don't know what's on the screen. Sorry. Okay,
so we're starting with definitions.
Okay. 855-115-0005. For right now, we can only motion on a rule once during a board meeting. So later today, we're going to discuss mailing, I think it's C3 for CPA and CDTM. If the board motions to send that to rulemaking, then these two definitions will also be included in this definition rule. If you do not send that to rulemaking, we will remove this before you motion. So paren 1 and 2 may or may not go through rulemaking right now. Just depends on what you motion with mailing C3. Paren 3 and 4 are the exact same definitions that you sent through rulemaking, that we got comment on, that were in mailing before. We're not making any changes. The board reaffirmed yesterday that you were happy with the counseling definition. We're only including them in the rulemaking again because it makes the most sense when people are reading the counseling rule to also be able to see the updated definition for counseling, because they work together. And if you don't see that and you're looking at our current counseling definitions, it would be very confusing. So paren 3 and 4, we just send back through rulemaking with no changes since the last rulemaking hearing, based on board discussion yesterday. 855-115-0145. So this language we struck is in red and the language we added is in green. So paren 2 would now read, counseling must be provided or offered to be provided to the patient or patient's agent on the use of a drug or device when the drug or device has not been previously dispensed to the patient by the drug outlet, when there has been a change in dose, formulation, or directions, when the prescription has been transferred to the drug outlet pharmacy by oral, written, or electronic means, or for any refill that the pharmacist deems counseling is necessary. And then in paren 3, sorry, I'm not on your screen. Okay. We've added the language, an offer for the pharmacist to counsel under paren 1 and paren 2 must be made by a licensee. That was based on board discussion yesterday and direction. There's no other changes. The only other thing we had done was what used to be paren 2 is now paren 4. And that was just to make the rule flow a little bit easier. So the language did not change, but what is on line 56 under paren 4 used to be paren 2. I'll hand it back to you, Board President Doyle, to see if we captured the board's intent yesterday.
Board Member Doyle, Staff Member Belvin, is it possible to decrease the font size or aspect such that the two substantive changes in green can show up on the screen at the same time?
On
We'll
highlights.
be able to see everything on the
So we
screen
can
at
scroll
once.
up to 2 and then see if we can make it small enough. that
Yeah.
All the changes are at once, yeah.
No guarantees.
Take two to the very top of the screen.
Yeah, if we take 2 to the top, or the other one.
By the way,
Yep, that'll help too.
farther.
Keep on going. Right there. Oh, wait, there.
Now you can enlarge it a little.
We'll pause just for a moment for everybody to be able to that.
I think the board needs to be able to see paren 1 in the screen as well.
Oh.
This is the issue.
Now you're going to shrink.
I could push it all down onto one. Yeah, it does. It's not working. How about
And
this?
paren 1.
Oh, great. Rough day for Melvin. Sorry. Make the people in the back see this.
Oh, that works.
How's that? Dark, but it's hard to tell. Should I Staff Member Davis, the red is just really hard to see
Yeah, it's
in
fine.
here in person, so.
This is Board Member Doyle. The question is, are there any further questions with regard to these changes as it encapsulates what consensus was yesterday? And is it understandable? I believe that it does encapsulate our conversation. It does represent it, and it is understandable. I don't have any recommended changes. Board Member Chin,
For Chin, would agree.
Member Hall,
Member Hall, I agree.
Member Joyce,
Board Member Joyce, it captures what we talked about yesterday. I don't know. Could we combine three? I don't know. Yeah, never mind. It looks good.
Board Member Vivian,
Board Member Biberman, so my question is that this, this package is all going to rulemaking, but we haven't, we already talked about all of it, but it's new to rulemaking, correct?
Member Doyle, we were to have we did address the content yesterday, and we withheld a vote on that content to send it to rulemaking, and because so many things are interrelated, and so a vote later today will be held on this to send it to rulemaking.
Okay, and in this context, can we go up a little bit? Does it have the part where it says that counseling means oral, written? Okay. This is all in that package. This is what we're gonna vote on. Thank you very much.
To clearly answer your question for the public, yes, it is all inclusive within this package C13.
Okay.
Member Hemmings?
Board Member Hammond, so once it goes to rulemaking, it's gonna come back to us and we'll have a chance to discuss it again, correct?
Member Doyle, that's correct. We would receive public feedback on it and vote to approve or reject it in December.
Thank you.
Member Beeman?
Member Beeman, I'm comfortable with the changes. I appreciate your work on it.
Member Patel?
Well, Member Patel, no comments.
Thank you. That concludes conversation around package C13. We will now move on to package C4. I turn it back over to staff member Davis to orient us.
Yes, give me just a moment because I had to put that one in. All right, so C4 are the rules that we need to change in the outlets to coincide with all the licensee rule changes. So we called this package RP-IP alignment, and it's really meaning to align with divisions 102, 104, 115, 120, 125. So there are just some changes that we need to make, and then there's some conversations we wanted to have with the board, policy discussions to get your direction on. So for those on the phone, this is a discussion item C4. It's the board's first review of the new proposed rule language and amendments for Division 41, which include general requirements for outlets, requirements for personnel, drug procurement, out-of-state pharmacies, prescription requirements, prescription validity, operating a laboratory, and prescription transfer requirements for drug outlet pharmacies. So the board will consider today sending these rules to the November 2023 rulemaking hearing to potentially adopt in December and be effective with the other licensee packages on March 1st, 2024. The first rule is 855-041-1010. Making sure, okay, you're on the same page as I am. Okay, great. So modifications to paren 1 are to align the language in this rule with the language that the board adopted in 855-115-0210, which is the pharmacist in charge responsibilities. So that rule says, in addition to the responsibilities of a pharmacist outlined in OAR 855-115, a pharmacist in charge of a drug outlet pharmacy must Paren B, be physically present at the drug outlet pharmacy on a regular basis for a sufficient amount of time as needed to ensure drug outlet compliance. So we have revised paren 1 for the outlet to say at all times, each drug outlet pharmacy must at all times have one pharmacist in charge who is normally present in the pharmacy on a regular basis for a sufficient amount of time as needed to ensure drug outlet pharmacy compliance. In paren 2, new language, ensure that the PIC is qualified per 855-115-0205 and complies with OAR 855-115-0210. So the outlet is responsible to make sure their PIC is qualified according to the rule and completes the responsibilities in 0210. And another rule package, package C6, if we get to it today, we were proposing to change the rule number for the PIC to 205. If that we don't get to that today, and we may not, based on the pace of board discussion, then this would be filed as ensure the PIC is qualified per 0200 and complies with 0210. Paren 3, report a change in PIC within 15 days of occurrence. The board gave direction to staff at the June 2023 board meeting that the outlet should be responsible for this report and not the PIC. We did have some staff recommended language change to do in real time, that you would report a change in PIC within 15 days of occurrence using the board's online registration system. It's eGov. There won't be a separate form. You just go into eGov and update your PIC. Staff member Melvin, can you make that change on line
I'm sorry.
25?
You cut out a little bit. I'm sorry. Say it again.
On 3, report a change in PIC within 15 days of occurrence. Please add to the end. I'm trying to get the exact language because I actually didn't have it in front of me either. It's the online. Is Chrissy in the room? Sorry. Trying to find it.
Let me look through my email real quick before we discussed it.
Trying to find it. Oh, with the registrant's electronic licensing record with the board.
Electronic licensing record with the board.
It's report a change in PIC within 15 days of occurrence using the registrants. I don't know, it's not with, but.
Is that better?
Does that look okay? Staff member Hennigan?
That's what I was thinking.
In the registrant's license.
Okay,
Using.
sorry about that.
Okay.
Yes.
In the.
Is it registrants? Apostrophe? Yeah.
Apostrophe S.
Number.
Okay. Staff member Davis, maybe you should read it again now with the.
So paren 3 now reads, report a change in PIC within 15 days of occurrence in the registrant's electronic licensing record with the board. Okay, then moving to paren 4. There's no change to the current language, but adding a second sentence that the report of termination must include the name of licensee, the date, and the reason for the termination. Board staff propose adding the second sentence, as many reports are missing one or more of these pieces of necessary information. Board staff can create a web form to be filled out when reporting this to facilitate capture of all necessary information. We recommend striking what was paren 3. It's duplicate language. This is already required in OAR 855-041-1018 paren 2. And then just renumbering paren 5 and making the reference in C to point to OAR 855-115. I'll hand it back to President Doyle for discussion on the changes to 855-041-1010.
Member Doyle, I'm just reorienting myself to get the correct information on my screen. And we'll begin a conversation with Vice President Chin.
President Chin has no comment.
Member Hall,
Member Hall, no comment.
Member Joyce,
No comment.
Member Vipperman,
Board Member Vipperman, what is the reason to put the termination, the reason for the termination? What reason do we have that for that? Putting it on. Is that something that's asked when?
Staff member Schnabel. My recollection is that this was put in many years ago when technicians were first registered with the board, in that some employers will terminate or will allow an employee to resign in lieu of termination for something that perhaps could have been violation of pharmacy law or unsafe practice.
So it's to
Allow the board to investigate
Yeah.
those situations to maintain public health and safety,
okay, thank you.
and it's required by law.
Oh, is that true?
It's a statute.
Okay, thank you.
Member Hemmons,
No comment.
Member Beeman,
Member Beeman, in number 4, the report to include the name of licensee, dates, and et cetera. Oh, what about license number? Is that too strict or too much? Because there could potentially be 5 people with the same name, and which licensee does that then pertain to? So, I don't know if that's too much, but just since licensees have individual numbers, it would be more.
This is Staff Member Davis. I'll let compliance staff respond to that.
Staff member Efremov, I think that's a great suggestion.
Name of licensee, license model.
Senator Melvin, if you could add something to that effect in line. Board Member Patel,
Member Patel. Just this suggestion, but as executive director mentioned, it's law, but I would like within 15 days, just to like everything is 15 days, easy to remember, except one is 15, one is 10. Just for the simplicity.
This is Staff Member Davis. We've already promulgated rules in Division 104 that use the 10 working days. So I'd prefer at this time if we could leave the same, and if we would like to revisit that we do it after the rules become effective, so we can change it in all the places.
Sure.
and Board Member Doyle, last in the round robin, no additional recommendations, and appreciate staff feedback for offering additional advice to board members that yes, license number included in this statement on line 29 is appropriate. Member Beeman, Board Member Beeman.
Board Member Beeman. Just a question, and I don't know if it's that is not under our responsibilities, but there are non-licensed people that work in pharmacies, and potentially they could be terminated or resign in lieu of termination for things that could be patient safety issues. Do we have any say over if that type of a termination should be reported as well, even though you're not a licensee. Or would we not be able to see observation based on that?
Pausing for recommendations.
Staff member Davis, I can't respond to that. Someone on compliance or board council might need to respond to that.
So like if a clerk who's not
Thank you,
licensed
Staff Member Davis, that's who I'm.
can move.
I'm not in the room.
Just say that.
Oh,
That's what I
know.
think.
Is the question over whether you could make rules regarding the reporting of unlicensed personnel in pharmacies? You don't have jurisdiction over them.
Thank you.
Member Chin?
Board Member Chin, the only thing that I can think of in terms of an unlicensed personnel in the pharmacy space identifying themselves as a pharmacy tech or a pharmacist, you would have jurisdiction because they are
Impersonating.
Right, you'd have,
blah, blah, blah.
well, you'd have jurisdiction potentially over the unlicensed practice of pharmacy or acting as a pharmacy technician without a license.
So that's the only scenario I can think of.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so
That's where you would have jurisdiction.
potentially maybe make the reporting narrow to that. Which is reporting termination of unlicensed personnel of acting under whatever, because it has to be a violation, right?
Right, but I think that's, I don't know, I've never seen a case, but I've been on the board for 30 years. But that's, I don't know if anybody's ever done that. It happens in nursing, it happens in doctoring. I don't know that anybody's pretended to be a dentist, but.
Is there, Board Member Doyle, is there any advocacy from others to include that carve out, so to speak, for a non-licensed person?
Board member Peppermint, no, I don't have any reason to put it on there because it's not, again, on our jurisdiction. But my comment would be, I don't know, maybe only licensed people in the pharmacy? That's not under. I mean, that's.
That's a different topic. Seeing none, we'll move on. With regard to the next rule number would be 1018.
Okay, OAR 855-041-1018. I just do want to point out that this rule is also listed in mailing C for just the proposed amendments, and 1C, it would say 855-183. But for this conversation for now, we will stick with our current compounding division. So a drug outlet pharmacy must ensure that each prescription is dispensed in compliance with 855-115, 120, 125, 041, 139, 141, and 143. So this was a cleanup to match the new divisions and add divisions in which the affiliated pharmacy operates under Division 41, and those are kiosks, lockers, and RDSPs, which are the last three numbers in the rules. Per NB, controlled substances, controlled substance is dispensed in compliance with 855-080. Compounded preparation is dispensed in compliance with 855-045, and a radiopharmaceutical is dispensed in compliance with OAR 855-042. We're just adding B through D for clarity that these divisions apply specific to these types of dispensings. Paren 4 is new language. This language was added for each licensee type, and now it's being added to the outlet for consistency. So the outlet must ensure that each licensed and non-licensed individual only perform duties they are licensed and trained to perform. Paren 5, the outlet must be responsible for the actions of each licensed and non-licensed individual. Again, this language was added under pharmacist regarding those under their supervision, and we're now adding it also to an outlet responsibility for consistency. In paren 6, just changing the language to say establish, maintain, and enforce the drug outlet written procedures that are required in OAR 855-041-1040. This is the most recent language that we've used in other outlet rules where you establish, maintain, and enforce procedures. And then removing the reference to 855.025.0035 as that rule will no longer exist. In paren 7, just updating the rule number so that it's still pointing to the correct rule. This is the one about the pharmacist determining how many people they're capable of supervising. Paren 8 is just minor, fixing capitalization. I'll hand it back to you, Board President Doyle, for discussion on this rule.
Board Member Doyle, engaging in discussion in 855-041-1018, beginning with Board Member Hall. Any comments or concerns?
Member Hall, no comment.
Board Member Joyce,
Board Member Joyce, it looks either.
Board Member Vipperman,
No comment?
Board Member Hammonds,
No comment.
Member Beeman,
Member Beeman, in an A, where it is just yes, A, shouldn't 041 lead because it's the lowest of the numbers?
Good point. Yes, it should. Staff Member Davis.
Thank you. Sorry, that just,
Yeah, there's a couple of extra ands in there, so we'll clean that up. Give us just a second. One 120, 125, take out 41
Mhm.
and take out the and after 41 because that's like an extra and.
I'm just gonna strike it.
Yeah, and then take out that. There we go. Thank you, Board Member Beeman.
Member Beeman, anything other?
other than that, I think that was good.
Board Member Patel,
Board Member Patel. The number 5, I mean, I'm not necessarily wrong, but it's like drug outlet, right? We are talking about drug outlet. So we are saying the drug outlet will be responsible for the action of each licensed and non-licensed individual. To me, is sort of the pharmacist on duty or the pharmacist in charge responsibility. They will be responsible for the action of each licensed and non-licensed individual. Because outlet is going to write down the policy procedure. And the whoever pharmacist on duty and pick supposed to be enforce policy. So for me, it's like, it shouldn't be drug outlet. It should be come under pharmacist on duty, or the pharmacist in charge. Right? I mean, that does not make any sense to me. We are holding drug outlet accountable for the action of the licensed and non-licensed.
thank you. Board Member Doyle, don't have any substantive comments. Board Member Chin,
Comments?
after hearing the feedback in the first go around, are there any other concerns that would like to be brought forward? Member Joyce,
Or Joyce, so I mean, what about that though? I mean, it's like. The outlet sets the protocols and establishes the protocols. The PIC is supervising the licensees and responsible for licensees, and when there are cases and a license there's violations, it's the PIC that's responsible.
That's
So,
what I'm saying.
yeah, so I mean, that's a good point. Are we gonna address that any further?
Board Member Doyle, we've been trying to have a cooperative responsibility between the PIC pharmacist and the outlet. This is not the first time that we've established this type of association. My view also I can think of in this place is that it's not the PIC or the pharmacist who makes a hire of a technician. It's the drug outlet, you know, the business, if you will. So with respect to that, there are HR policies, et cetera, that the organization is managing. So I think that there is a shared responsibility, and therefore I agree with this statement.
This is for member Patel. The hiring is a different. This is something like responsible action on duty, not like when you hire. This is like you already hired, and this is the action once you hire, right? Before hire, like you can't. To me, it's like if they're going to make this rule, then it's like we are going to take disciplinary action on the drug outlet and the PIC. The drug outlet is not responsible for those licensed, non-licensed individuals do. Yeah, if they don't have policy and if you take disciplinary action, totally understand. But if they have it, then it's not drug outlet. It should come on pharmacists on duty or the pharmacist in duty.
Thank you for the comment. I understand or interpret that you're suggesting that number 5 be stricken from the package. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further support for that? Looking for a raise of hands. Seeing no other support for that, para 5 will remain, and we've concluded conversation on 1018, and we will move forward with 1019 and probably 1060 at the same time.
Okay. Staff Member Davis, so 855-041-1019 is a new rule called drug procurement. Procuring drugs from non-registered drug outlets increases the chance of introducing suspect or illegitimate drugs in Oregon. Adding this rule has been on a list of rule revisions that board staff have had for a long time. It is a current rule in the new outlet type, so your RDSP, that sort of thing. So you've seen this language before, but it was never added to Division 41. We were considering adding it to general requirements, which was the rule we just discussed, but it is its own rule in other divisions, and we do feel that it could stand alone. So that reads, a drug outlet pharmacy may only receive drugs from an Oregon registered drug outlet, for example, a wholesaler, manufacturer, or pharmacy. I actually want to pause here because I think the next rule we're going to have quite a bit of conversation about. So any questions on 1019? Board Member Doyle.
Board Member Doyle, please raise your hand if you have any questions. Seeing no hands, we're ready to move on to 1060.
So I want you to think back over a year ago at the August 2022 board meeting. Yes, 2022. The board reviewed the differences in our rules for in-state or resident and out-of-state or non-resident pharmacies. At the conclusion of that review, the board provided guidance to board staff for the PIC requirements for resident pharmacies to match that of non-resident pharmacies. Now that the PIC rules have been revised within Division 115, staff have made the necessary modifications to this rule so that the requirements for in-state and out-of-state match. So paren 1 will read, an out-of-state pharmacy is any establishment located outside of Oregon that engages in the dispensing, delivery, or distribution of drugs into Oregon. Again, with the adoption of 115, the board has discussed repealing rules concerning drugless consulting outlets, which is what the second sentence was about. Thus, we no longer feel the second sentence is needed. All rule repeals needed for the new divisions, just as a reminder, will be reviewed by the board at the December 2023 board meeting for a rulemaking hearing in January to be adopted as a repeal at February and effective on 3/1. Paren 2, every out-of-state pharmacy that provides drugs, devices, or services to a person in Oregon must be registered with the Oregon Board of Pharmacy. These are just a couple of grammatical clarifications. In Paren 3, to qualify for registration under these rules, every out-of-state pharmacy must be registered with the Board of Pharmacy in the state where the pharmacy is physically located. Again, grammatical fixes and the removal of the requirement for an outlet to be in good standing was language that was struck. This rule has been in place for a number of years, and since this rule was put into place, a definition for good standing was adopted by the board in December of 2022. So good standing in OAR 855-006-0005 says that good standing means a license or registration that is not suspended, revoked, or otherwise restricted from practice of pharmacy or subject to a current disciplinary order. Eliminating the restriction on good standing gives the board the power to make case-by-case decisions when determining if an outlet should be granted a registration. In Paren 4, this is going to be similar to what I covered earlier. We're changing the language to match the PIC rules in Division 115. So every out-of-state pharmacy must have at all times when dispensing, delivering, or distributing drugs into Oregon, an Oregon licensed PIC who is normally present in the pharmacy on a regular basis for a sufficient amount of time as needed to ensure drug outlet pharmacy compliance, and is responsible for ensuring compliance with all applicable Oregon laws and rules when dispensing, delivering, or distributing drugs into Oregon. To qualify for this designation, the individual must, Paren A, hold a license to practice pharmacy in the state where the pharmacy is physically located. Paren B, comply with PIC qualifications and limitations in OAR 855-115-0205. And Paren C, comply with PIC requirements in OAR 855-115-0210, Paren 1, A through H, and 2. We recognize that C is written a little strangely, and that is because Paren I and J in OAR 855-115-0210 are about controlled substance inventories. And since the drugs are physically located in another state, the pharmacy needs to follow the state rules for controlled substance inventories. So they're not required to comply with our controlled substance inventory rules. That's why this is written the way it's written. Striking Paren D and striking Paren 5 as board direction was to make the requirement the same for in and out of state. Out-of-state pharmacies will no longer have 4 months to have a PIC after initial licensure. Striking Paren 6, again for the same reason as Paren 5. If an out-of-state pharmacy does not already have a backup Oregon licensed pharmacist who could be the PIC, then they will need to comply with Paren 5, which is below, that I'm about to go over. So in the event that they don't have a PIC that can be named immediately, Paren 5 reads, an out-of-state pharmacy must cease drug dispensing, delivery, and distribution and provision of pharmacy services into Oregon while there is not an Oregon licensed PIC. The revised rule will require the pharmacy to immediately cease dispensing, delivery, and distribution into Oregon if there is not an Oregon licensed PIC. I'm going to pause here and let President Doyle do a roll call because the next rule is going to need its own policy discussion. So I want to check in with the board on Paren 1 through 5.
Member Doyle, we're asked to do a round robin on 855-041-1060, para 1 through 5. With that said, I ask board member Joyce, I believe it's your turn to go first.
right, board member Joyce, so out-of-state pharmacy, quote unquote, only engages in dispensing, delivery and distribution of drugs and no other services. Just want to make sure that that looks clear to me. For now, I'll pass everything else.
Riverman,
Board member Viverman, I like the changes. I like that it's the same as in-state pharmacists, and that's what we asked them to do. So I am okay with it. Yeah, so, public comment.
board member Hemmons,
No comment.
board member Beeman,
Member Beeman, I like that it aligns with state pharmacies. I am concerned because the double standard has already been in existence, that this has been acceptable. I'm concerned about what this could do to patient access. Should it have been this way all along? I think so. And I expect and look forward to public comments.
member Patel,
Or, so clarifying question, so you're saying out of state pharmacy, they have to align with the in-state pharmacy big rules, yeah. Huh? Please say that. So you're saying, no, we say that, and I agree with that, I don't like discrimination personally or professionally. So anyway, so correct me if I misunderstood. So the out-of-state pharmacy, they also have 15 days to find the fit.
No.
Did I understand right? They have 90 days. Now they have 0.
staff member Davis, are you able to?
Staff
answer
member
that question?
Davis,
I'm confused.
in-state requirements are 0. There's no PIC gap that's
And no
allowed. You have
PIC.
15 days to report a change in PIC, but that doesn't mean you have 15 days to find a PIC.
Okay, so you have 0. And now we are saying out of state is also going to be a 0.
Correct.
No, I'm support. I am. This is board member Patel. I'm in support of the consistency. I was thinking we're supposed to have 90 days instead of 0. We suppose in-state also supposed to have 90 days because we have huge problem finding the pig. But I think we even create a bigger issue now. Now even out of state pharmacy, they also have 0 pig gap. We also have 0 pig gap. I don't know. I'm going to wait for public comment, but I don't think so. We solved the problem. When I said I need consistency, I don't discrimination, that means what I meant. We should have some, 90 days, just like out of state, the in-state pharmacy should have 90 days to find the fit. By doing that, we are going to create the access barrier. No, I'm not in support of this. By all means, no. Strong no.
Use, board member Doyle, I'm in support, no questions or concerns at this time, board member Chin,
Remember chicken comment?
member Hall,
Remember all. I agree with board member Patel that I'm concerned about access for patients. I mean, I don't know the history of the prior, this isn't the first time we've seen this, right? I mean, it's the first time I've seen it, but okay. I think they need some time.
Board member Patel, not only out of state, even the in-state pharmacy, they also need some time. You can't have 0, like if you're aware. It's hard to find a pharmacist, let alone be fit.
so I'm understanding, that there are two, Board Member Joyce, you had asked for other comments to be received first, and then, so I took that as a signal, you might have some additional comments now.
Board Member Joyce, no, I understand the pick shortage and the pick shortage comment, and I do appreciate that comment. However, at this time, I don't have any strong feelings.
This time I'm hearing, if I'm correct, there are 2 board members who are not in favor of the time limitations that this places, but that would not be consensus to make a change to the language at this time. If your mind has changed, then please, for those who have not demonstrated their unfavorability for this, then please let me know.
Member Hammond, Board Member Patel. Where did the 90 days come from? Was that something that already existed before?
This is Board Member Patel, yes. So 90 days was existed for the out of state pharmacy because you're going to have few Oregon licensed pharmacies, right? And that was, they have 90 days, but if you're in state, so yeah, it's 0. But I was like, since we have big shortage, do consistent, we give some time to in-state pharmacy as well to find a pick. And instead of like closing the pharmacy or fining them, taking disciplinary action. That was my intent, not this one.
Member Hammond, thank you. What was the reason for not doing it the other way? I know we're trying to make it the same, but what was the reason for not doing the 90 for both rather than the 0 for both?
Board Member Doyle, we want to assure that the pharmacy is running appropriately, and as that necessitates having a PIC always on staff. I'm asking staff member Davis to please clarify. It's my understanding that the 90 days is just the initial finding of the pick once the outlet starts distributing into Oregon. But is it correct that it's also not 90 days to find a replacement one?
So staff member Davis, initially they have 120 days, 4 months to designate a PIC after they initially register with us. And then they have 90 days if there are changes made to find a new PIC in the current rules that are on the books.
And Board Member Doyle, I recognize that this is a change, but I think it increases patient safety that there is a PIC who's familiar with the Oregon rules. And I find that 3 months of time to find a new PIC is excessive. So again, I believe that there is some advocation for this to the dates to be changed. I'm asking for clarification. Right now, we have consensus by 6 of 8 board members that have not indicated that they wanted a change.
Board Member Timmons, I was just asking for clarification. I was trying to understand where the time frames came from. It wasn't, taken either one. Thank you.
Board Member Higgins, thank you for the clarification. And again, I had included you in the 6 because I didn't hear a specific recommendation for a change. So looking for hands, if anybody wants to make a change. Seeing and hearing none, We will close discussion on that. Potentially, again, we're still voting on these later for them to go to rulemaking hearing. And that would be an additional opportunity to receive feedback from the public. Staff member Davis, you wanted to go with para 6 now?
Sure. Paren 6 states that each out-of-state pharmacy must ensure each prescription that is dispensed, delivered, or distributed into Oregon complies with the standards for the practice of pharmacy and OAR 855-115. So in reviewing the rules for out-of-state pharmacies, along with the applicability rules for pharmacists that we discussed earlier in this board meeting, there is not a rule that clearly requires the out-of-state pharmacy to ensure that a non-licensed pharmacist counsel or perform DUR according to our board rules when dispensing, delivering, or distributing drugs to patients in Oregon. If the board wants out-of-state pharmacies and any non-licensed pharmacist working for them to be required to comply with board rules for these items, then this rule is needed. If the board does not want this, then the rule is not needed. Back to you, President Doyle, for discussion.
So we'll do the round robin, starting with next board member Bipperman.
Board member Bipperman, I just want to read it. Each out-of-state pharmacy must ensure each prescription is dispensed, delivered, or standards of practice. So this was my idea about that. It doesn't say verify. Can you tell me who this is just for the outlet, right? The outlet. So, the outlet is not responsible. I'm trying to work my head around the responsibility of the pharmacist that is verifying a prescription out of state. Not licensed.
Yeah, so this staff member Davis, the outlet would be responsible for non-licensed pharmacist practice on patients in Oregon. So if the pharmacist didn't counsel when counseling is required, then the outlet would be held responsible because we can't hold the non-licensee responsible.
Okay, thank you.
That's what this rule would. That's what this rule would do. The
So
question is, do you want this rule?
Yes, you're asking whether we want that. Yes, I'd like to keep that in there with you.
Board member Evans,
Comment.
member Beeman,
Board member Beeman, I like that. I like that there is an accountable entity.
member Patel,
Board Member Patel will wait for public comments.
board member Doyle is in support. Board member Chin,
Very much in support. There shouldn't be two standards for our people in Oregon based on where the pharmacy is located.
member Hall,
Member Hall, no comment this time.
member Joyce,
Board member Joyce, I'm in support, but I am looking forward to public comment and encourage public comment.
thank you. We concluded discussion of para 6. I turn it back over to staff Davis for 041105.
All right, board staff Davis, 855-041-1105. This is outlet general requirements for prescriptions. So if you think back to when we were revising the rules in Division 19 and we were placing updated versions into Division 115, there was one rule in OAR 855-019-0210, which was the duties of the pharmacist receiving a prescription. At the time when we went over this change, the board staff indicated that parts of this rule would be placed into Division 41, as those parts were really requirements for an outlet rather than a pharmacist as a licensee. So this is that rule. And unfortunately, I was not able to blackline the amendments the way I usually do because the old language that was over in Division 19 was very hard to work with. I tried so many times. I cursed at this rule a few times. You're going to see a lot of black line, but if you were to pull up 19 to 10, a lot of it's very similar in its effect. So starting at the beginning of the rule, each drug outlet pharmacy must ensure that prescriptions, prescription refills, and drug orders are dispensed accurately to the correct party, pursuant to a valid prescription, pursuant to a valid patient-practitioner relationship, for a legitimate medical purpose, and in accordance with the prescribing practitioner's authorization. 1 paren A through E are identical language to rules the board has already adopted for pharmacists practicing for a drug outlet in the new rule 855-115-0130. It's in 1E A through E. Paren F is not currently contained in 855-115, but board staff have put it on the list for future rulemaking in 2024 to align it with the drug outlet rule. Paren 2 starts to talk about the required elements of a new or refilled prescription. The language in 2A through F has been modified to match the board's previously adopted and modernized language for prescription general requirements that you can find in 855-139-0300. So these are RDSPs. So this is the same language we're already using in a different outlet, just updating Division 41. So paren 2. The following information is required for each new or refilled prescription drug or device. Paren A, the name and date of birth of the patient for whom the drug is prescribed, unless for an animal. And for an animal, the name of the patient, name of the owner, and the species of the animal. Paren B, the full name, address, and contact phone number, and in the case of controlled substances, the address and the DEA registration number of the practitioner. Paren C, the same language as before, name, strength, dosage, form of the substance, quantity prescribed, and if different from the quantity prescribed, the quantity dispensed. Paren D, directions for use. Paren E, the date of issuance, and if different from the date of issuance, the date of filling. And paren F, the total number of refills authorized by the prescribing practitioner. And I want to pause here because paren G is where it gets really lots of new rule language. So I want to just double check with the board that we're all on the same page at this point. President Doyle.
Member Doyle reviewing rule 041-1105A through, right? Through F.
To F.
To F. To
Yeah.
F. Board Member Hemmons,
Board Member Hemmons, no comment.
Member Beeman,
Board Member Beeman. Oh, no. Okay. Sorry.
Air Nation needs to come back to you.
No, if I need to, I'll use my hand if I from Kevin.
Member Patel,
Remember Patel, still kind of in trauma, what just happened 5 minutes ago, so no comments, nothing.
Board Member Doyle, I'm in agreement with the revised text. Board Member Chin,
No comment.
Member Hall,
Member Hall, no comment.
Member Joyce,
Or Joyce, no comment.
Member Vipperman,
Board Member Vipperman is okay with the language.
Staff Member Davis, please proceed.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now.
One moment.
Okay.
Board Member Beeman.
Board Member Beeman, thank you, some thoughts came together. So in 2, B. Following information is required to a refill. So does that mean that each prescription, hard copy, refill, I guess does TB mean if it's on file in the patient's profile? Or does that mean that the full name, address, and phone number need to be on the face of the hard copy? As similar to controlled substances? Just that we have that accurate information in the patient's profile.
Remember, Doyle, my understanding is that it would be part of the patient profile that you're able to link the two together. It's required for each new refilled prescription, but if you have that data already, it wouldn't need to be on the face of a hard copy. That's my opinion and reading rule and how I'd operationalize it. I'd welcome others if they have concern.
Sorry, that's our intent. We don't want to start. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And
Pausing for other questions. Staff Member Davis, please continue with subpara G.
All right, so we're on 1G, and this begins where I wish I could have made you a really nice black line version to overlay against OAR 855-019-0210, paren 4 through 7, but it was just really messy. So here's clean language. So a prescription must also have a valid signature. For non-controlled substances, paren I, received by the pharmacy via hard copy written prescription, the prescribing practitioner or practitioner's agent manual signature. Paren II, received by the pharmacy via facsimile, the prescribing practitioner or practitioner agent's manual or electronic signature. Paren III, received by the pharmacy electronically, the prescribing practitioner or practitioner agent's electronic signature. Now, when you move into controlled substances, the language is just slightly different. So, and for controlled substances, a valid signature received by the pharmacy via hard copy written prescription, the prescription must have an original manually signed signature from the prescribing practitioner. Paren II must be, if it's received by the pharmacy via facsimile, the prescription must have an original manually signed signature from the prescribing practitioner. And paren III, received by the pharmacy electronically, the prescribing practitioner's digital signature that complies with the rules adopted by reference in OAR 855-080. And paren C, it says in paren G, which is this whole rule that we were just talking about, manually signed specifically excludes a signature stamp or any form of electronic or digital signature unless permitted under federal regulations. And paren H, any other information required for controlled substances pursuant to federal regulations. I do want to tell you that board staff have provided the OMB and the Board of Nursing with a copy of this proposed language. Both boards have provisionally indicated they do not believe this language would be an issue for their licensees. I'm going to hand it back to Board President Doyle for any discussions on the signature language.
Board Member Doyle, opening discussion for para G and para H. Board Member Beeman.
Member Beeman, concerned with BAI number first, right? It would be a 1, but it's I. Concerned with that. I don't disagree with it, but I'm concerned about potentially increased workload of verification for missing signatures for non-prescriptions that are hard copy written. In I look forward to comments. The rulemaking hearing. Yeah, I think that's all I have.
Patel?
Board member Patel thinks it should be just the valid signature and full stop. No need to describe how, what should be there and not. Valid signature is valid signature. Everything else is unnecessary, but for public comment.
Board member Doyle, no, further comments. Board member Chin,
Member Chin sees no problem with what's written.
member Hall,
Member Hall, no comment at this time.
member Joyce.
Board member Joyce, now it looks like we have signatures coming in all forms. As it's written, I'm okay with it, but I'll wait for public comment.
Member Vipperman,
Board member Peppermint, I want to understand your hesitancy. Is it because prescriptions come in without the signature on there?
Sometimes it will say, and I specifically remembering, and it could be completely moved at this point. But like coming from an emergency room, it brings in a hard copy. And it says electronically signed on the hard copy, it's for a non-controlled substance, but there is no physical signature. And this is why I'm having a hard time verbalizing it, because I'm trying to back to how that. But I think overall it's good, and where I appreciate that other boards looked at this for their licensees, because I think that's gonna be the biggest. It always is the biggest. One of the bigger barriers to overcome is to educate why the pharmacists are suddenly calling the offices asking for this and that. And I understand we can communicate that with other boards and their licensees, but the person answering the phone for the pharmacist at the clinic is not often a licensee, and often actually push back and say, no, that's not. So I just think that and that's why I'm looking forward to public comment and seeing if if I'm thinking down an incorrect path, or if I'm off on this one. But I just, sometimes we do things that when the actual licensee has to educate on in real time, it is it delays things for patients, and it creates a bigger burden than we are intending to. We're trying to fix a problem, and it can have unintended consequences.
Thank you so much. Board member Viverman, and I kind of thought about that too, because sometimes, but I like the language in here, and I especially like the part where it says that it excludes the stamp. I don't like the stamp. I don't like the stamp. It's too easily stolen, or so I like that that's in there. Thank you.
Board member Evans,
No comment.
board member Doyle, I'd like to provide an additional reflection on what board member Beeman had stated. If it were me receiving a non-controlled prescription into a pharmacy that didn't have a signature on it, in order to be able to assure that there was a valid patient practitioner relationship, I would contact the office to verify that it had come from the office, and I would ask, and then I would be able to say, may I take this as a verbal order, and then reduce that down to writing in lieu of the missing signature. So granted, yes, there are some couple of extra steps that are required, But it would otherwise be our responsibility to ensure that the validity of the relationship.
Staff member Davis, this is a current rule. This isn't a change. I just couldn't show it in black line. So our current rule says the pharmacist must ensure that a written prescription that is hand carried or mailed into the pharmacy contains an originally manually signed signature of the prescribing practitioner or practitioner's agent. So almost all of these rules are not changes from what is currently in rule. It's just shown in a very different way than the way it's in the current rules.
This is Board Member Green. Thank you for that clarification or that reminder. I may just be I might just be off right now because I can't put it quite all together. So thank you for that.
Board Member Doyle, wasn't just for a moment. If there are any other questions or concerns in this section. Seeing and hearing none, Staff Member Davis asked me to move on to para 3.
Okay. Paren 3, if there are any discrepancies or uncertainties regarding a prescription, the pharmacist must promptly seek clarification from the prescribing practitioner or the practitioner's agent. So as board staff were discussing this rule, we actually think it would be better placed in 855-115-0130 because this is a rule about a pharmacist. However, those rules are locked and we cannot modify them until on or after 3/1/2024. So we were proposing that the board send this through under the outlet so we can get public comment, and then after 3/1 we can make a motion to move the rule into the pharmacist responsibilities. Then starting in paren 4, this is where I was able to do a markup overlay. So you can see this is currently existing language over in 190210. This rule is about the additional items that are needed for oral prescriptions. So paren 4 will state an oral prescription must, and paren A, be promptly reduced to writing or entered into an electronic record system, and must include, and we got rid of all of A through G because we already just said that earlier in this rule in paren 1. And so these are the things that are in addition to that are needed. So in paren big A, it says the name, initials, or electronic identifier of the licensee receiving the prescription. Paren B, the name of the person transmitting the prescription. And little b, and this is just for board consideration. So we'll have a policy discussion in a moment, but paren B, after the prescription has been transcribed, the licensee must verify accuracy by paren 1, reading back the prescription as transcribed to the person transmitting it, or paren 2, listening to the voicemail a second time. And paren C, the confirmation of accuracy in B must be documented on the prescription. The potential for verbal orders to be misunderstood, misheard, or transcribed incorrectly makes them error-prone, particularly given different accents, dialects, and drug name pronunciations by the prescriber and the recipient of the order. When you add in sound-alike drug names and dosing numerals of 50 versus 15 or 5, background noise and disruptions, you can see why it's not uncommon for verbal orders to be incorrectly transcribed. The Joint Commission includes a requirement under their standards for the receiver of a verbal order to record it and read it, not repeat it back to the prescriber, to help assure that they have heard the order correctly and that it was transcribed accurately. An ISMP survey in 2017 found that nearly half of all respondents who reported receiving telephone or spoken orders read back the order less than 50% of the time. In fact, 16% of respondents said they read back verbal orders only 1 to 5% of the time, and 9% indicated they never carry out that step. So board staff would just like board member input on if you would like rules regarding confirmation of accuracy. If you do want them, do these rules work? If not, what suggestions do you have? Or would you like to have paren be struck. Back to you, Board President Doyle.
Board Member Doyle, entertaining discussion about para 3. We begin with Board Member Patel.
Board member to tell. Doesn't matter, no comments.
Board Member Doyle. Appreciate the background with regard to the safety of the frequency of how often that this is currently being done. The bulk of my experiences have been in health system pharmacy. And it's commonplace, as you had mentioned about JACO, for myself as a practitioner to have done this. It seems in the best interest of patient safety to eliminate the chances for misunderstanding and misinterpretation. A situation that I am brainstorming about is with regard to emergent situations in a health system, particularly. I'm having trouble reconciling if I went to a code situation, if a physician told me to give a medication, is that a prescription? And would I later reduce it to repeat it back and reduce it to writing? So I think that I'm probably going off of into the weeds here, but I'm just trying to share people where my current thoughts are right now. Board Member Chin.
Board member Chin, in my support of this language for patient safety. I think, especially as we're looking at rule changes for the licensees besides a pharmacist and a intern who can also make mistakes with oral orders, that we just should have this as part of our rule.
Member Hall.
Hall. I'm just curious on cost or C, the confirmation of accuracy must be documented on the prescription. Just like me putting a double check or just wondering.
Board member Patel, I echo, that's exactly our question.
The staff member Davis, and when writing this, that was what was thought, like a ×1 or a double check or just some notation, whatever your policy is within your facility to show that you've confirmed accuracy.
Staff Member Schnabel.
Staff Member Schnabel, in health system pharmacy, it's common to, when a verbal order is taken or telephone order is taken, it's the designation TORB, telephone order read back, or verbal order read back, VORB. And that's just part of this signature on the order by the receiving pharmacist.
Member Joyce.
Board Member Joyce, yeah, this is in the interest of patient safety. The sound alike drugs, is it Xanax, is it Zantac, hydralazine, hydroxyzine? Easy to get that mixed up. I support it. And it should be common practice. This is in the interest of patient safety. Humalog, Humulin, and then even the dose of Humalog. Is it U500, U100? It has to be read back. It has to be confirmed, especially with high risk meds. and transcribing that over to phone. I'm in favor of this.
Board Member Viverman, so I think it's common practice now, and we, when I was in, community pharmacy, we just checked it twice. I mean, I saw my pharmacist just check it twice. That's how we knew they read it back. But it's never been in the rule. I appreciate it being in the rule, especially, like Board Member Ken said, we have, in other licensees perhaps going to be able to do this, so I am in full agreement with it. This language.
Member Evans,
Member Heavens, no comment.
member Beeman,
Member Beeman, hearing those statistics that staff member Davis read is shocking, and, this is best practice. My hesitation with this is that it is specifying professionals' practice, whereas other boards and other professionals don't have things outlined for them in that way. However, I'm in favor of putting it in the rule because of the other licensees that don't practice and only assist in the practice that may be having these tasks outlined for them. That it can reinforce if they're trained poorly or are working with or trained by pharmacists that have the bad habit themselves. But I do hesitate because of the prescriptiveness of it. However, it is the safest way to do this, and so I'm in favor of leaving it in there, and look forward to hearing comment.
we've completed the round robin. We'll go around for it.
This is what.
Wait, no, I know, I did not call on you yet. One moment, please.
But you're moving forward, right?
No, I'm not. One moment, please. Completed the round robin, and now I'm going to call on more comments. If you can please raise your hand, then I will call on you for further discussion. Board Member Patel.
Wow. Thank you.
Not have a further comment?
Don't.
Are there any further comments from board members on the current policy under discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next order of business.
Okay, staff member Davis, so just continuing where we were. So we went over what used to be H, and then the old I we've pulled, we've taken out. It talks about written or electronic record of the oral prescription must be retained and on file, which all documents and records must now be retained according to our new universal rule. So that rule was no longer needed. There's a new paren 5. So going back to the header, because I have to read the lead in here, all the way back at the top. Each drug outlet pharmacy must ensure that, paren 5, the prescription originated from an authorized practitioner or practitioner's agent. 6, the prescription contains all the information specified in 2. And for controlled substances, an OAR 855-080-0085. That's our requirements for prescriptions and controlled substance division. Paren 7, in accordance with ORS 689-515, paren 3, and ORS 689-522, the pharmacy dispenses the prescription pursuant to the prescribing practitioner's request. That there may be no substitution for the specified brand name or manufacturer of a drug. In paren B, we just changed shall to must, same for paren C. And what is now paren 7, the written or electronic record of each prescription must be retained on file as required by OAR 855-041-1160, which is the records rules within the outlets. and in the case of controlled substances under rules adopted by reference in OAR 855-080. And then we strike the language in all of 4 and 5. Reason we felt that we could strike this language is that we have referred to the statute now in paren 7, that's the ORS 689522. And all of that language in 4 and 5 was just repeating the statute verbatim. I'll pause here. Board President Doyle, any questions on 5, 6, 7, 8? I think I had a misnumber. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Board Member Doyle, so we're reviewing again to recap. 855-041-1105 from para 5 to the conclusion of this section of rule. It's in the round robin, my turn to begin speaking first. I'm not mistaken. I do not have any recommendations or concerns at this time. Board Member Chin.
Board Member Chen has no comments.
Board Member Hall.
Board Member Hall, no comment.
Board Member Joyce.
Board Member Joyce, it's outlined very clearly here. Thank you.
Member Vipperman.
Board Member Vipperman. So my only comment is there may not there be no substitution for specific brand name or manufacturer. Is that do you think going to be a problem for some as people ask for a certain manufacturer, they can't get it in? Do you think that would be, is this language thing in there? Already?
Staff member
We're
Davis.
adding manufacturer.
We're adding manufacturer, but this, if you read the lead-in, it's pursuant to the prescribing practitioner's request for no substitution. This is not a patient request. If the practitioner specifies a specific brand or manufacturer, the pharmacy would need to comply with that or contact the prescriber to get a change. We see this in a lot of cases. That's why we added the or manufacturer. When the practitioner has specified a manufacturer, the pharmacy needs to talk to the practitioner if they want to dispense a different manufacturer.
Okay.
Member Higgins.
Board Member Hemmets, no comment.
Member Beeman.
Board Member Beeman, I appreciate their manufacturing there just so that it's because brand medically necessary isn't always brand specifically as in a brand name, but I need manufactured brand. So I think that reinforces the right thing to do.
Board Member Patel is absent. Therefore, we've completed the round robin. Just checking the room for any hands of any other comments that wish to be supplied after the round robin. Hearing none, we'll move on to 855-041-1115.
Okay. So this is prescription validity, renaming from verification of prescription authenticity. So the previous rule or the current rule on the book requires prescriptions to only be dispensed if valid. Board staff have reworked the language in this rule to make it clear in which circumstances a prescription is not valid. So each drug outlet pharmacy must ensure that, paren 1, prior to dispensing a prescription, a pharmacist has verified its validity. In order for a prescription drug to be valid, it must be issued for legitimate medical purpose by a practitioner acting in the usual course of his or her professional practice. The responsibility for prescribing of the prescription drug is upon the prescribing practitioner, and a corresponding responsibility rests with the pharmacist who dispenses the prescription. I think everybody will probably recognize this language. It's very similar to the language that's used in federal law concerning corresponding responsibility in 21 CFR 1306-04. Paren 2, a prescription is considered not valid if, paren A, at the time of presentation, The prescription shows evidence of alteration, erasure, or addition by any person other than the person who wrote it. Paren B, the prescription does not contain the required information that's required in 855-041-1105. The prescription is expired per OAR 855-041-1125, or the prescription is for a controlled substance and does not comply with the requirements of OAR 855-080-0085. I'll give that back to you, Board President Doyle, for discussion.
Board Member Doyle, reviewing the rule at hand 1115, Board Member Chin,
Member Chin thinks it looks fine.
Member Hall,
Member Hall, I appreciate what's written.
Member Joyce,
Board Member Joyce, I appreciate the detail.
Member Biberman, I am in agreement with the language.
Member Hemmons,
Comment.
Member Beeman,
Member.
Vittel is absent, and Board Member Doyle, no additional comments. Pausing for a moment in case anybody has any additional ideas. Seeing none, we'll move on to 855-041-1190. Staff Member Davis.
Right, so this is operation of a laboratory and a drug outlet pharmacy. So this is the same language that the board reviewed at the February 2023 board meeting. We brought you the rules about a pharmacist ordering labs. And so we showed you also what it would look like for the pharmacy if the pharmacy is operating as a laboratory. The only change we made was in paren C to make it clear. So it now says requested by a physician, dentist, pharmacist, or other person authorized by law. We've added pharmacist for clarity that a pharmacist is one of the persons authorized by law to use the finding of laboratory examinations. So, and this was language that was directly from statute. We just added the clarification so people wouldn't be confused if it applied to pharmacist. And then I'm just going to read the last rule, and then we can talk about both of them in tandem. 855-041-2115. This is prescription transfers. The language changes in this rule were made to modernize the language, ensure flexibility with federal laws, and ensure that OAR 855-019-0210-4 was moved from pharmacist rules to the pharmacy rules. So this is another one of those in that rule that we were kind of splitting up and moving, that we need to move a piece. So the first change comes in paren 2. Prescriptions for controlled substances can only be transferred one time unless otherwise permitted or forbidden by federal regulation. Staff proposed the change in paren 2 to allow flexibility in rule in the event of a change in federal law. Paren 3, we propose to strike. Board staff believe this language is not in alignment with DEA regulations, as DEA regulations still require a transfer. The DEA rule that corresponds with this states that 21 CFR 130625, paren D, pharmacies electronically accessing the same prescription record must satisfy all information requirements of a manual mode for prescription transferal. And then finally in paren 4, this is where you see the overlay against the old rule that was in 0210. A pharmacy that transmits or receives prescription information to or from another pharmacy electronically must ensure as appropriate. And then changes in paren D for controlled substances. It complies with the rules adopted by reference in Division 80. This is just a change to refer to our rules, which adopt those federal regulations by reference. And then no other changes to the rule. Back to you, President Doyle, for any comments or questions on the last two rules, laboratories or transfers.
Going around round robin for rules 1190 and 2115. We begin with Board Member Hall.
Member Hall, no comment at this time.
Member Joyce.
No comment.
Member Bisserman.
Board Member Viverman, the controlled substance can be transferred one time. I'll wait, we'll get comment on it, so that's okay. Thank you.
Member Evans,
No comment.
member Beeman,
Member Beeman have no comment.
board member Doyle, no, comments at this time. Pausing in case any new ideas have popped up.
Board member Chen, my 2 cents was still no comments.
I apologize, I lost track.
I didn't have any comments.
You started on board member Hall? Yes, okay, I apologize.
You don't need to.
Okay, hearing none, that concludes, review of, package C4. And we will, move next to package C3.
Board President Doyle,
Oh, yeah, I apologize, I lost track of time.
have a break, please.
It's 2:32. We'll take a 13-minute break until 2:45. Thank you.
2:45, okay.
We only